Following days of heavy regime airstrikes on Syria's city of Aleppo, international diplomats are intensifying efforts to protect the people living under siege. The UN envoy for Syria is travelling to Moscow to try to save the cessation of hostilities and urge Russia to help halt what US Secretary of State John Kerry calls Assad's killing machine. Well, Kerry wasn't the only one condemning Assad's actions.
There is a need for a new initiative in the Syria dialogue to keep it alive. The Syrian moderate opposition is finding it increasingly difficult to justify their participation in a political process while their people are being bombed and killed by regime forces supported by the regime's allies.
Well, at least 350,000 people are believed to be living in rebel-held parts of Aleppo, where fighting threatens to scupper peace talks in Geneva. Thousands continue to flee the city and other parts of the war-torn country. Turkey has long championed the establishment of safe zones along its border with Syria, an idea backed by Germany. But the US says it's not a practical alternative right now.
The president is against safe zones. He's expressed that from the beginning because he doesn't want to put the United States in a situation of trying to enforce it. The focus of our military should be on degrading and destroying ISIL. We should, however, collectively as an international community, be conscientious about living up to the commitments that were made by all of the parties in the context of the cessation of hostilities. In those areas where we've seen the cessation start to fray in recent weeks, we need to reinforce our efforts to refresh the cessation of hostilities. And in particular, the Assad regime needs to live up to the commitments that they've made. And we would like to see the Russians use the influence that they have with the Assad regime to get them to do it.
Well, TRT World's Ediz Tiyansan has been following these events closely from the Turkish border city of Gaziantep, and he joins us live now. So Stefan de Mistura, then the UN Special Envoy to Syria, he's heading to Moscow. What exactly will he be discussing?
Well, the main objective is to restore the cessation of hostilities. And remember, the United States and Russia were the co-sponsors of this deal, the ceasefire deal, when it was brokered back in February. But since April 22, it's come to a near breakdown. And the violence that we've seen in and around Aleppo, on certain days, it's been unprecedented and increasing on a daily basis. Now it's clear to many that Russia is the main ally of the Assad regime, who can put enough pressure on the Assad regime to stop their offense. A similar appeal did already come from the US administration, who said that stopping the bloodshed in Aleppo was their priority. And Kerry has also already spoken with his counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, over the phone. And Kerry said that at this point, Assad regime and Russia are using the presence of al-Nusra in Aleppo, who wasn't part of the ceasefire deal, as an excuse to press with their offensive. So now the main objective is to have Stefan de Mistura to go in person to Russia to detail it out, how such a deal, a ceasefire deal, at least a temporary one, could be established also in Aleppo.
So how much influence then does Moscow have on the Assad regime and on events in Aleppo?
Oh, well, absolutely. As I said, they are the main and the strongest allies of Assad regime. Remember, the Assad regime only survived until today because of the help they received from Russia after sending extensive military backup some months ago, especially supporting the Assad regime with their aircrafts, with their airstrikes. They've been very influential. They've been practically the only reason why Assad regime survived. And now Assad regime really needs Russia, even today, to go on with their political strength in Syria. So whatever Russia has to say in this conflict is taken quite significantly by the Assad regime.
And why is the regime focusing so much effort on Aleppo? Why is it strategically important for them?
Well, remember, this is the largest city in Syria. It used to be the financial capital of Syria, and it's seen until today whoever controls Aleppo has a strong hand on any negotiating table. It gives them a huge political power if they were to retake the entire city of Aleppo. Remember, until now, Assad regime only controls the western part of the city. The eastern part is still controlled by the opposition. And as soon as the ceasefire deal broke down around April 22, for over 10 days now, for more than 10 days, we've seen extreme violence, both in terms of bombardment, shelling, but also airstrikes by the regime forces have also increased. And another reason for Aleppo to be at the center of talks right now is the fact that it's also at the center of violence. Just the recent we've heard on the ground is that on Monday, bombardment from both sides continued as opposition groups were firing rockets onto the western side of the city. Assad regime was still dropping barrel bombs. That's according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. And the death toll seems to have reached more than 250 in now over 10 days.
Okay, Ediz, thank you very much for the update.